Hi everyone, welcome to a quick Zoom how-to. We know that video platforms are going to be a very useful tool for everyone, especially those who have book tours and such going on. But it's a great way for anyone really to promote their book or have a book club or a book reading or anything of that nature. So we're going to do a series of how-tos from the Guild on some of the different video platforms that you can use. The one that we use most frequently and the one I am most familiar with is Zoom. So I'm just going to go today through quickly, hopefully, some just best practices and how to set up an account and how to get everything moving. After this, after you watch this video, you can jump over to the communities. I will start a Q&A thread there based on this video, so that if you go and try to do these things on your own and you find some stumbling blocks, you can just go ahead and post your question there in that thread, and then I can jump in and try to help you through it. So let's get started. Zoom has several different tiers or pricing plans. You can do it for free. That would be about 100 people. I think it hosts up to 100 people. It's one-to-one meetings, but those meetings and recordings can only be 40 minutes max. So if you're doing something like this, where it's just a recording that you're recording and saving and then sharing, that you want to do like a screen share with, the free version is great for that. The free version is also good if you're doing short book clubs where you have a few people that kind of want to all jump in together and chat together. It's good for that. If you want to do more of a broadcast or a panel kind of situation where you're talking and the participants are asking questions through like a Q&A feature, you're going to need the webinar version of Zoom. And the only way to get the webinar version is if you buy the Pro license. The Pro license is $14.99 a month, which you can see here. That includes, the same amount of participants as the free, but it gives you, in addition to being able to add a webinar add-on, you also have really no limit on your meeting time. So if you have a program that's a little bit longer, it says 24 hours, but I don't think any of us would have a 24-hour program. So it's kind of an unlimited time. And if you buy the Pro license, then you can add the webinar add-on for $40. And the $40 webinar add-on will allow you to have up to 100 participants. The other great thing about just getting that $40 webinar add-on, if you found that you were broadcasting it to a bigger group, you can also share your video straight to Facebook. And then obviously unlimited people can view it there. And I'll show you a little bit about that later. So free and pro, both of these are meetings. And then if you'd like that webinar option where it is more of a one-way broadcast, you would have to get the Pro for $14.99 and then add the $40 webinar. So that's the pricing on how it works. So once you've purchased your, if you go to zoom.us, that is the URL for Zoom, zoom.us, sign up for your pricing under pricing plans here where my mouse is. Once you sign up and you're ready to go, you would go to your account. If you, when you're logged in, it will say my account like this, like the screen arrow shows, or it may just say login. That's how you get started. Once you are inside of the platform, you've signed up for your plan, whether it be free or pro, and you've logged in. Once you click my account, you'll get to kind of your main account landing page. If you click meetings here on the side panel, and then once you're here, you want to do schedule a new meeting. Now again, a meeting is where all participants can talk to each other. So it's not a true broadcast where it's one way to an audience. This is a really kind of a conference call setup. Or you can use it for a recording like this. When you hit schedule a meeting, it'll give you some prompts of things that you need to fill out. You should give it a topic, a description, the date and time that you're going to have this meeting, how long, time zone, and if you want people to register for it. For meetings, I don't think that's necessary, but for webinars, you will want people to register. So scrolling down that page more, you'll find some more video. These are default to off. You should always make them on. That's just a best practice. It's easier to turn your camera off later than it is to try to get your camera on if you've set the setting to off. So these kind of default to this whenever you open it, but please make sure to turn them to on. Audio, you want it for both. You want telephone and computer audio. You want to give your attendees the choice to join with a link with a URL and join on their computer, or just pick up their phone and dial in the meeting code and join on the phone. So always make sure that's checked to both. Another best practice that I like to do is this enable join before host. I would go ahead and check that off as well. That means if maybe you're 5 minutes running late and everybody else is ready to go, the meeting will just go ahead and start for them before you get there. Once you're done with all that, click save. Once you click save, you go back to that main screen. And at the bottom of that screen, you'll see, or in the middle, I think it is, you'll see how to invite your attendees. So when you have scheduled your meeting and you're ready to invite your book club or a group of people to have this kind of conference chat with you, again, interactive chat, every phone line open. So it can be very noisy. This isn't maybe something you'd want to do with 100 people. You might want to do it with like 10. 20 maybe, but anything beyond that, it starts to get a little hard to control. Here is your join URL. So you can just send them this URL if you'd like, but also you can click here for the copy the invitation. And then you're gonna pop open this box here. This has all the information that they would need to join. You have the URL here that they can just click and join on their computer from their browser. You have the meeting ID here that they will use if they're dialing in. So any of these numbers will work to dial into the call. Just dial the number. When prompted, punch in the meeting ID. Also, if you are comfortable with Zoom, you've used it before, a lot of people they can just open their Zoom app and they can just punch in this meeting ID as well. That's another quick way to get there. So now your attendees are invited, and it's the time and date that you want to do your book club or whatever kind of book chat you're doing. You would go back to your account, to your meetings, and in your list of meetings you would see book launch discussion. You'd click it, and then you'll click this, start this meeting. Once you click on join a session or start the meeting, and if you've not already done that, you'll be prompted to download the Zoom software. So there are a few things I want to tell you about downloading Zoom. You'll see some pictures here in these next couple slides of some of the pop-ups you may see on your computer when it's time to download, if you've never downloaded Zoom before. And wherever the little red box is, those are the buttons you should be clicking. So video conferencing, it does make heavy demands on your computer and your internet connection. So for the best experience, you'll need equipment that is relatively new and software that is up to date. And you will need a fast internet connection, and preferably, a plugged in connection. But if you don't have that, a wireless connection can work, but you just need to make sure you have a strong wireless connection. So the supported operating systems, which you may want to check on your computer, you're going to need, and I want to make sure I have all these up to date for you. You're going to need at least a Mac OS 10.7 or later, and Windows 10 or later. The browsers you want to use are Firefox or Chrome. Those will be the best supported browsers. So once you do click that join meeting or start meeting, you're going to save the file, download it, go to your downloads folder on your computer, double click it, and then you'll be prompted to run it or save it to your computer. Once you do that, you'll be prompted to launch it. So you'll see that in our next slide here. So you want to run the file. When it pops up, just say, okay. You don't need to click this choose button and try to choose something. Just when it tries to launch, just say, okay. It may also look like this on a Mac. It's asking you to download it, and then it's going to ask you to open it and click OK. Once you've done all that and it's downloaded on your computer, it should really only take about 10 seconds. It's a pretty quick process. You will be inside the meeting. You always want to join with your computer audio here. So you would click that. The requirements for the Zoom outside of the browser and operating system requirements we just talked about are that you're going to need to have a webcam and some kind of microphone. Most computers, especially laptops, do have like the built-in camera right at the top of the screen, and that has the microphone and everything built in. You might have an external webcam that also sits on top of your computer. Microphone is already built in. All of those work just fine, but you do need to have a webcam in order to do this kind of web video. You're going to go ahead and click, when you come in, join with computer audio, and then you'll see kind of this. If you don't have your camera on, you're going to see this kind of setup here. You want to make sure that your video, if you'll see here, mine is crossed out. It has a red line through it, meaning that my video camera is not on right now and no one can see me. What I want to do to turn on the camera would be to uncheck that, to click it once, and it will show the way that this microphone does with no slash through it. That means your camera is active and ready to go. If you try to click this and you can't get that red slash to go away, it means that you don't have a camera connected. And you're going to push the little up arrow next to the camera and look through your options to see if you see a camera that your computer can find. So on my computer, it can find this HD camera that's built in. You may have a couple options. Just go ahead and pick through them. You might have to click one, give it a second, see if it works, click the next one. Same thing goes for the mute. In order to hear yourself, you want to make sure that it does not have a red slash through it. If you can't hear yourself, or you don't see like the little green bar going up and down as you talk, you know, the audio bar, then you'll do the same thing for the audio. And you'll click the up arrow and you will go through and just, you see, I have a couple different microphones and speakers in this computer. So I would just go through them one by one and just keep testing it and see if I can hear it. There is if you want to test all of this out before you actually jump into Zoom, there is a website that you can go to kind of just do a test of your system before you really jump in and try to start doing it. If you just want to test out if your computer system even has the capability and the webcam and the browser and everything, you should go to zoom.us/test. I will share that in the community, that URL as well. You can go there and click join meeting, and it will automatically dump you into a meeting where you can start testing out your software to make sure everything works and make sure your camera works. It might be a good first step to do if you have any concerns about whether or not your platform will work. So once your video is on and your audio is on, you will want to maybe record this meeting. You can record it on your computer or on the cloud. The cloud recording option is only available for pro licenses and higher, but for free, you can record it right to your computer. So you'll find that here. If you want to see who's in your meeting, you would click Manage Participants. And if you want to do a screen share of any kind, you would click the share button, the screen button here, and anything that you have open on your computer, like actually open behind your windows, will be an option for you to share. And you can share anything from PowerPoint presentations to browser windows, really anything you'd like there. Okay, so let's go through some best practices. You'll have to excuse this not so lovely picture. In the time of coronavirus, we are all homebound and, comfy. So this is an example of what not to do with lighting. When you want to find a place to do your video or do your meeting, make sure that you are standing with the window. If you are near a window, the window is shining on your face and not from behind you. If you sit with a window behind you, you're going to look like this. Very dark, can't really see anything. This is a thumbs down. We don't want to have this. So you would want to spin yourself around so that your computer and the window are both facing you and you're nicely lit by the natural light. That is obviously the best situation. If you're in your room without windows, that's okay too, but just make sure you're in a well-lit place. You may want to test it out a little bit and look at it. Also make sure that you are speaking loudly enough. Make sure that if you have other people in your house who are streaming movies and such, and you don't have a strong internet connection, you may want to have everybody chill out on that for a little bit while you do your meeting. I know that's hard in the current environment. But those are a few best practices. So now let's move on to the webinar function. Now the webinar function, again, is available with a pro license and then a webinar add-on. All that you can do all of that from the plans and pricing setup if you want to do webinars. The difference with webinars and why we like to use them sometimes is if you're doing something where it's kind of it's a panel, it's a one-way kind of, I want to broadcast this to my attendees or my audience, and you're concerned about background noise or things like that, the webinar is good for that. The webinar is also great because you can get an idea of how many people are coming. You can have them register ahead of time. You can ask them questions on the registration form if there's some information you'd like to know about them. You can have a Q&A button within your webinar so that people can click the Q&A button and they can ask you questions. And then when you have time, you can jump in and answer those for them. Sometimes a Q&A can be difficult in the meeting setup because people might just all start talking when you ask for questions all at once. So if you kind of want a more controlled Q&A environment, then the webinar is a good way to go. So if you have your webinars added on to your Zoom account and you've purchased that package, you'll see a webinars button when you log into your account. And same thing, we're going to go through this just like the meeting. It's very similar. Schedule a webinar, give it a topic, a description, date and time. Then under the video, again, and I have this big arrow pointing here, make sure you turn the host and panelist video on by default. Make sure you have the audio set to both. Your webinar options. Most people are going to want to have the Q&A. It's a very useful feature. I would suggest checking that off. I also would suggest checking off the enable practice session. What the enable practice session does for you is that it allows you to kind of get in there, make sure everything's working, make sure you have all your share windows set up before you start broadcasting to everyone before it's live. If you do enable the practice session, then when you start your webinar, there will be a little green button at the top that says broadcast. You'll need to push that broadcast button before it actually starts showing to your attendees. So again, if you're unfamiliar with this, you may want to test that out. Otherwise, if you feel comfortable just starting your webinar and jumping right in, then you don't really need this enable practice session. Completely up to you. Don't worry about the rest of these. I mean, you can make it on demand. That just means that people can watch it whenever they want to. That's not really necessary. Record the webinar automatically. You can do that if it makes you feel more comfortable. You can just go ahead and check that, and then you don't have to worry about hitting a record button later if you want to record it. I would encourage you to record them because then people who couldn't join live, you can post it to your Facebook page or anywhere else and they can go watch it later. So we'll go ahead and schedule that. And once you've scheduled it, again, you'll have a couple more pieces to fill out. Invite panelists. That's going to be when you scroll down the page about halfway to a fourth of the way down the page. Invite panelists. There's a little edit button here. If you are having a conversation with another person, maybe it's you and another author both talking about your books or talking about another topic, you can have several panelists and you would add them here. If you click this edit button, it'll pop up a window that asks for their name and email address, and then Zoom will just send an invitation to them, and that URL for each panelist will have their own URL that will get emailed straight to them, and they will use that to join you in your broadcast. This here is the registration URL. So this long registration URL, you would copy and paste that, and that is what you would send to the people that you want to join your chat, that you want to join your webinar, your book tour panel, your reading of sorts. So you'll want to click this here and send that to them. And when they get that, that link, if they click it, it'll open up, and I should have a screenshot of this for you guys, and I don't think I screenshotted this part. It'll just ask for their name and email address. They put that in, click that they'd like to go, and then they will get all the information that they need to do it. Okay, and then so there'll be, you want to set the approval options to automatically approve. You want to close the registration after the event date. You can find all of these items here under the edit button. And then you want to click close registration after event date. Allow attendees to join from multiple devices, because you want them to be able to join from a computer or from a mobile phone. And then here, show social share buttons on the registration page. That's another good thing to have in case people want to share the event on Facebook or other places once they receive it. So same thing with the webinars. You got it set up, it's ready to go. It's in your list of webinars. When you go to my webinars, you would click start this webinar. Go through if you haven't done this before, refer back to how to download Zoom. But once you get into the webinar, go through the same things for your video and your audio. But I just wanted to show you a couple different tools in the webinar. You have the Q&A tool, the polling tool. These are a little bit different for webinars. Polling, we never really use that. If you wanted to use it, you can. It's like, you might ask the attendees, like, do you want this book released in this date or on this date? Or which cover do you like? Anything where you're kind of asking them a choice, you could pop up a poll for them and they would vote. It's not a widely used function, but it is there if you want it. The Q&A function is very helpful. You can always tell people during your book reading to say, hey, I'm going to read a little bit from my book. If you have questions for me, go ahead and use the Q&A button. Ask me a question, I'll get to them. When you click the Q&A button, it's going to pop up this box for you like this, and the questions will just all line up in there, and you can just answer them one at a time. So it makes it very easy to do a Q&A function. Now, if you'd like to record the webinar and you didn't pick the record automatically, the recording button in the webinar is a little bit different. It doesn't just line up on the meeting here on the black. You have to click more to get to it. And then you can, again, record on this computer or record it to the cloud, whichever you'd prefer, depending on your space in your computer. You can also do live on Facebook or live on YouTube. If you click these buttons, it's going to prompt you to put in like your login. You're going to need to log into your Facebook page, give them the credentials, or log into YouTube if you have that. If this is something you've done before and you're comfortable with, like, displaying to Facebook, you can go ahead and do this. But I would like to know from you guys if this is something that you're interested in, kind of how to shoot these videos out to Facebook and YouTube. Let me know in the community, and I can give you a more in-depth step-by-step on this, because it can get a little involved, and we won't go into that today because I don't know that everybody wants that. But if that's something you're interested in, please do let me know. Okay, so I know this is super quick on how to use Zoom, but I'll have this saved. You guys can access it whenever you need to kind of get up and running, and at least give yourself a chance to jump into this app and try it out a little bit. I'd love if you guys could do that, and then let me know, if you try to use the app and you find that you're running into stumbling blocks, maybe you can't get it downloaded, or maybe you're having some issues with your sound, or maybe it's just setting up your meeting or webinar, and you're not sure on the right steps. Anything really that comes up, if you guys want to jump into the community, I'll start a thread there with this video, and you can just go ahead and let me know what you might be encountering, and I will do my best to help you through it. I plan to also do some videos for you guys for Facebook Live and some other platforms, just to give you some tools to be able to do kind of your own virtual book tour. We are also going to be sharing, and you probably may have already received them, some other resources and links to ideas for what to do during this time for promoting your book. So again, jump over to the community. Let me know if you have any questions. I hope this was helpful, and I will talk to everyone later. Thanks.